then I'm going to spotlight here on Anne. Now, for the person who was asking about home educated people who have been successful as adults, Anne, would you say you're a successful adult?
Oh gosh, that sounds like a lot of pressure.
And you never went to school, right?
Yeah, so yeah, I've never been to school. Um, yeah, and I'm now in my early 40s, so I've been around the home education community for a long time.
And still very heavily involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, doing what I can.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about perhaps a little bit about your childhood and a little bit about what you're doing now. Just kind of like a little quick bird's eye, or not bird's eye, but whistle stop.
Yeah.
Where you are now.
So I grew up in Norfolk. My parents had both been teachers, but that bore no real relationship or help to them home educating. In fact, as a lot of teachers say, they had to kind of learn a lot of stuff that wasn't what they'd done before. But it did mean they were kind of interested in education in general. Um, the plan hadn't been that we were home educating. Mum didn't really know it existed. It was the early 80s, and my birthday's in September. And in those days, you went to school if you were going to school, genuinely the term following your fifth birthday. And because I was in September, I'd have been one of the oldest in my class. So when I was about 2.5 or 3, so earlier than you'd normally do it, but just so that they had enough time to have a think about things, Mum and Dad had a look round the local school, which would have been the school that I went to. And so I'd been 2.5 or 3, and the local school had the red table and the green table and the blue table. And my mum thought, well, like most 3-year-olds, Anne can already do colours. This isn't, and she'll be a very old 5-year-old by the time she comes here. This isn't going to be very interesting. And they looked around some other places as well, but it was all pretty similar. And the other thing that happened was my sister is 18 months younger than me, and my mum didn't want her to miss out on doing rhyme time at the library or those kind of things because she was having to rush back to pick me up. So she thought, well, in Scandinavia, they don't go to school till they're 7, and we're perfectly happy as we are at the moment, living our lives, doing interesting things, going to different groups and seeing friends and going to the shops, doing whatever we're doing. We'll just carry on like that. And then around the same time, she happened to have a couple of conversations with other people and read a couple of articles and realized that other people did this is a thing that actually existed, and the organization Education Otherwise existed, and she wasn't just inventing it. So yeah, the plan was that we'd be home educated until we were 7. And then that went very well, didn't it? Because I've never been to school. So I think my mum said the best advice she ever had was to take things 1 year at a time. And of course, by the time you've all been home educating for 2 years and you're having a lovely time, then school seems less and less sensible and relevant because yeah, it's always there as an option. We got dragged around lots of school open days at the point it would have been time to apply for high school, just so that we knew what the options were. None of that was of particular interest because we were already so busy having, doing lots of interesting things already. So, yeah, I've never been to school. My sister chose to go to sixth form as a bit of an educational experiment, um, and then got headhunted to work in the school in her gap year.
Okay.
So yeah, so we did lots of different things. I guess how we approached home education changed a bit over the years depending on how old we were. We were probably slightly semi-structured to start with, so we used to do a few mornings a week of doing some workbooks and things like that. But unlike other families, we didn't have a timetable, and if something more interesting came up, we wouldn't say, "Oh no, we're doing maths this morning. We can't possibly go out to the WI coffee morning or go and see our friends." We would be very flexible. And then we did a 52-mile round trip through the wilds of the Norfolk countryside once a fortnight to go to a village hall to meet other home educators. And then we'd also have museum trips and things like that with other home educators. And then a lot of stuff happened in the after school time. So brownies and guides and trampolining clubs and gymnastics groups and dancing, and I was in a theatre company and we did lots of volunteering. I helped set up the local talking newspaper, and my mum and dad were both very heavily involved with the community, so they were both bell ringers. So we got dragged around various churches in Norfolk on the weekends when they were going ringing, and they'd be involved in running various different groups. So like my mum was involved in the local museum, so we would go and volunteer there, and like we just kind of lived a life. I think we'd all say now we're older, if we would go back to have our time again, we were more and more self-directed as we got older, and I think we'd probably be self-directed from the start now. um but
Yeah.
that's the kind of, yeah, but it wasn't wrong at the time. It's just now we've gone through it, it's like, well, we didn't actually need, you learn so much from life.
Yeah.
So yeah, learning from life is a thing, and learning in your community, and being interested in the world around you. And then you wanted me to talk about what I do now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I work in radio. I absolutely love it. I've been working in and around broadcasting since I was a teenager. I started out as volunteering at my local Twickenham newspaper, and then I was involved in writing a book about home education, and I got asked to talk about that on our local radio station. And from there, I got invited back to be a paper reviewer, which was quite funny because I was 17 and they'd have like the Bishop of Norwich and the Director of Social Services for Norfolk County Council, and then me. That was quite fun. And then I got involved in volunteering at the local radio station, and then from there I started getting work, and then I did all sorts of things. I worked in television news and in producing drive time programs and producing a gardening show and being a tour guide and doing every kind of possible shift you could possibly imagine, and across various local radio stations. Then I got a job in London. I was one of the youngest in our department, actually working in children's radio. So I used to get paid to operate a fart machine for a living, and I got a program on Pick of the Year, which I was very proud of, which was all about children and death. And then I was always very interested in the technical side of things, so I got a secondment in our technical department, and I knew that it was going to go okay because during the interview we had someone said we've never ever had anyone apply to go from production to engineering before. Um, and so then I worked on radio playout systems. So if you've heard any pre-recorded noise at all, like any music that's pre-recorded or any trail or any package or any drama or anything like that, then it's being played out from systems I've worked on. If you're listening to anything on the BBC. So I was working as a staff member at the BBC for 12 years, and then I worked on the two largest projects the BBC had ever done. So Broadcasting House rebuild, and then building the Salford second headquarters. And then I left the BBC to go traveling, and I worked in New Zealand and I taught journalism in New Zealand. Then, through various circumstances, I ended up being in and out of South Sudan and Abyei for a little while, training broadcast engineers and producers there. Set up my own company. I run a broadcast engineering conference called Radio TechCon, and now I'm freelance, so I do broadcast infrastructure projects. I do training. Within the last 12 months, I've been in South Africa, Botswana, and Saudi
Yeah.
Arabia for work. So yeah, I travel a lot. I get to hang out in radio studios all over the world. And I absolutely love what I do. And then because I'm home educated, I have a side gig in baby wearing and doula stuff and birth geekery. So yeah, I think it kind of Dr. Rachel Barrow at the University of Lancaster recently did some work in home educated people and when they grow up and what they do for work. And she found there's a common theme of a lot of us ending up running our own companies and having
Yeah.
unusual combinations. So, but you can
Yeah.
all thread it back to being home educated, I think.
Yeah, there was somebody commented on the YouTube feed about do young people meet any difficulties or challenges when applying to higher education and integrating well socially? So that, obviously those of us who've been home educating for a while, we know that we know that this is not actually a
No,
problem
if I
that we
and not even
encounter,
if
but
I had a pound for
yeah,
every time I've been asked about my social life, I think if you never had a penny for every time I've been asked about my social
we
life, I
really
could
be
be
doing very
living off
well.
the interest and have several houses in Mayfair. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so weird to me that that's a question that you get, and
yeah,
and you always get asked it twice as well because you're asked, "What about your social life?" and then they say, "How do you make friends?" and that's the same question, guys.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, it's so weird because you're meeting people from every single background, and you're actually living in your community, and you know people of different
Well, you're
ages,
more in the
and you
real
know
world actually
people,
than
yeah,
you
you
are
know
in a
people on a real
classroom. Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
One of the education officers at Norfolk Museum Service, I'd known a lot when I was younger, and then I ended up doing a course with her. We were both studying sign language, and we are both on the same course when I was a teenager. And she like sent me a good luck card when I was applying for other things, other places, and we had a proper kind of, yeah, people,
Mm.
in your local shops, in your local library, and if you've been dragged along to
Yeah.
volunteer at the museum, lots of people who are
But they're not
much
all the
older than
same
you.
age as you, are they?
Yeah, and also at homemade gatherings, my mum used to say it was like being in a big Victorian family, or I guess being a bit like in your family, Juliet, because you've got lots of lovely children. But that multi-generational thing that you just instinctively, if you were one of the older ones, you just have someone else's toddler on your hip, and you there was no, oh, I'm not playing with them because they're an older boy or a younger girl or any of that nonsense. Everyone just mucked in together, and and I think that's just how we're designed to be, right? That's quite a natural way of
Yeah.
being, and this
Yeah.
separating everyone away from society for most of their waking hours and segregating them by age and geographical like location where they've been brought up is so weird, and it's so false. And especially how children are being treated in schools at the moment, across the country, like there's a real, it's very hard for teachers as well. There's just a massive culture of disrespect throughout schools. Teachers are
Yeah.
being bullied by Ofsted, and children are not in a good environment. If you're not allowed to look out the window without being in trouble, which is some of the behavior policies of some of the academies, like
Yeah.
it's appalling. Like it's not good for children. It's
We
not good
have
for
had a
adults either.
question about whether you feel, do you have sort of, do you feel positive about your home ed experience,
Yes.
or do you see any negatives in it?
So genuinely no negatives at all. And when I was growing up, I'd say it's a very positive experience. It also helped that obviously when you're 5 or 6, you just, if your parents say you're going to school or your parents say you're being home educated, then you're just like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. But by the time you get to 7 or 8, it was an active decision we were making as a family. My mum and dad were very good at talking about school and school being there. And obviously nearly all of your friends go to school, and my dad was still working in a school, so schools were a familiar place. I ended up working in a school when I was older, teaching trampolining. But yeah, so it was always there. So I'd never say home educate a child completely against their will. That's awful. But the great thing is if you make someone's education, if you make it your child's choice and you support them in that choice, then there's absolutely nothing they can do. They can't turn around and blame you when they're older, because it was like their choice all the way through. Um, in terms of negatives, absolutely no negatives. When I was growing up, I'm very, very positive about the whole thing. I think nowadays the negatives are, which isn't a reason you shouldn't do it, but just the general hostile environment is really horrible. And
Yeah.
when I
Mm.
was younger, people had never heard of home education, so you were forming their opinion of what it is. And now people are coming with all sorts of ridiculous ideas in their head and
Yeah.
stereotypes that don't bear any relation to evidence. And that, I
And
think, makes it harder.
I mean, I think there are some families that have more struggles than others, but
Yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
with the right support, every family, it can be a positive experience
And I
for
think
most.
that's what most of us who've been around for a long time have seen as well, that even for families who are coming to home education because of some kind of crisis, because even when I was younger, there aren't many people like who've never been to school, certainly not who are my age. Most people were coming into it because something had gone wrong, like either this local school didn't suit them, or there was bullying, or there's a reason, like school doesn't work, and that's why you end up home educating. Either you just believe fundamentally it doesn't work for you or your family, or you've tried it and it hasn't worked for you. And of course there's always the option to go back into school. Some people, I always say it's a bit like, some people are employed their whole life, some people are self-employed their whole lives, and some people mix and match depending on what works.
Mm.
And that's the same. Some people go to school, some people are home educated, some people do a bit of both. But I think, I don't know if you'd agree, Juliet, but from what I see, even when families come to it from crisis and it's not what they wanted and it wasn't the picture they had in their head for their family, once they've got through, certainly the first year, certainly by the time they've done 2 years, they're often like, well, we had this horrible circumstance to get here, but actually thank heavens we are here, because this isn't what we expected, and this is amazing. And why would you do anything else?
Yeah.
So if you are coming to it from crisis, then I'm really sorry that that's happening to you and your family. But know that a lot of us have seen a lot of people come out the other side, and really once you get into your head that home education does not have to be anything like school at home, and home education is parenting and family life really, and living in community and being interested in the world,
Yeah.
then you can have a lot of fun, and you
So,
don't need to
Anne,
spend very much money either. I mean,
I don't know if you have a few more minutes because we've
I want to plug Joy Baker Fund
I
if we
mean, we
do,
could
but
obviously keep you on for ages, but I know you've got things to do. But
you've got other speakers.
yes, I do want you to explain a little bit about the two initiatives that you've put in place. We do have Julia Black meant to be after you. She's very kindly said you can speak a bit longer, and
Sure.
she's coming back later on today. So, I think if you can do that in as much of a nutshell as you can.
Yes. So I'm sure you'll be talking a lot about things like the children's well-being, ha 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 ha, bill that's going through, and we've had various things happening in Wales as well over the last few years. So the kind of general environment for the regulation and legislation around home education is becoming much more hostile, which is a real shame because we have currently the best home educating laws probably in the world. Um, and we have all sorts of safeguards already in place. And the problem always is that officials don't know the law and that they don't follow the law, not that the law needs to be changed. So as a result of seeing all these issues over the years, a group of us from various different organisations that are supporting home education realised there was a bit of a gap. So I've been involved in setting up two organisations. We're still nearly there with the websites, but one is called Home Education Law Project, and that will be training professionals in home education law. So people like your local authority officials, social workers, solicitors, barristers, all of those people who might need to know about home education law, who are dealing with home educating families in a professional capacity, because so many problems and issues we have with local authorities come because their staff are paid to administer the law, and it's really shocking they have no training, which puts them in a hard position as well. But your tax money is going to fund officials who are paid to administer the law who have no training at all in home education law or pedagogy. So we're creating some training courses, or we will be creating some training courses once the CWS bill stuff is shaken out, to make sure that home educating people and people with good experience are there to train officials. And we want to make sure that the community is very much involved in those initiatives, and so that you all have input into what's going on. So that's Home Education Law Project. And then a separate organisation is Joy Baker Fund, and that is a charity. And the aim of Joy Baker Fund is to give out grants to home educating families at risk of financial hardship, so that they can access legal advice and support. Usually, if they're having to take on big expensive cases that need a barrister, so things that might be going to the High Court or judicial review. Not that we want anyone to be involved in court cases or taking court cases, but sometimes people need professional legal opinions from education specialist barristers as well. And up until now, people have had to fundraise for themselves, or they've been excluded from getting access to legal information because it's really expensive doing that kind of thing. Even getting an opinion from a barrister is like £5,000, and if you end up being in one of the higher courts, it can be tens of thousands. So Joy Baker Fund will exist to give grants in those areas. At the moment, we can't give any grants at all because we don't have nearly enough money in the bank account, but we are fundraising. I don't know if we're allowed to share links,
Of
Juliet,
course. Well,
but
actually, also,
we've got some in the
I
comments.
I didn't put any links for because the websites aren't finished yet. But
No,
if you're able to add anything, I can put it in the description where people can find out
I
more.
can I
We
can
are
put a message
working
into
on
that.
those
We've got
websites right now.
a document that we
Mm,
shared a little while ago.
mm.
It's got a link to we do have a donations
I'll put
portal.
it on the YouTube
Um,
the
just yeah. So
conversation
we've
as
got like a
well.
temporary holding Google Doc that's just like, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's a link there to our donations portal,
Yes,
which
because
I will
those websites are under construction at the moment,
yes, but it's because the one thing that we don't have much of is time, because we're
and money.
doing lots of time and money. So if you have, if anyone on the call has accidentally forgotten to remind everyone that they're a millionaire or something. But yeah, we're all registered. Joy Baker Fund's registered with the Charity Commission. We're registered for Gift Aid. We've just done our first sort of big set of accounts and stuff, so you can go on the Charity Commission website and have a look. And obviously, if you have any questions at all about Joy Baker Fund or home education law projects, because this session isn't about them, so we can can spend ages talking about those, but please just do ask. Like Juliet knows, I know stuff too. So yeah, we want to be open and there for the community, but it's definitely something I hope that people will feel able to support, because
Yeah.
we're going
And
to
if you
need to
want to
help
find
each
out,
other
yeah.
as we do in our community.
And Anne is on the
Um,
action group if you want to get hold of it to find out more, or if you can't remember where the document is to donate or
yeah,
anything like that, you can get in
we
touch
should
with
have a
her.
lovely website soon, because we were very lucky to receive a grant
Yes,
to help us get set
yes,
up. So yeah, we are
yes.
we're
We're
getting there.
getting there. Yes, but
If the government would stop trying to change the law all the time, we could have some time to do these other initiatives.
exactly we would. But it's going to be possibly be really necessary to have these safety nets of sorts.
Yeah, and just to
Um,
say, just do the legal bit. It's not an insurance scheme or anything like
mm,
that. So it's a charity, and the Charity Commission likes us to say, please remember that if you donate, then it could be used to take, to fund court cases and things like that. But it won't be taking any court cases itself. It will just be there to make sure that
yeah.
people who need that legal support are able
Yes,
to
and there
get
will be a
access to it.
committee that decides on
Yeah,
those
there'll be
grants.
a
There
committee
will
that
be a
decide, we're going to be
process to it. Yeah,
recruiting. Yeah, we'll be recruiting for grant subcommittee and all that kind of thing in due
yeah,
course.
yeah. So there will
Yeah,
be a
slow and
process.
steady, I think, is the way we're going to take this.
It's been the
Been
story of this
since
whole
before the
process.
pandemic we started setting this stuff up. So it's been a lot of work and a
Yeah,
lot of incredibly dull paperwork. But hopefully, um, those will build some really strong foundations, and that is important, so that you have two well-run
yeah.
organizations that are all, yeah, have everything in place. So
Yes, thanks so much, Anne, for everything you're doing
thank you.
and
I'm
giving
sorry I
back
don't
to
get
the
to join you for the
community.
whole day, but
No, yeah, well,
yeah,
it's
if
well
you're in doubt,
the
just home
YouTube.
educate. It's going to be
Yeah,
fine.
we've had to
Just take it
stream
one year at
to.
a time. You'll be
Yeah,
okay. It's great. Your children won't hate you so long as it's their choice. You'll be fine.
good. Thank you for that. And we're streaming live to YouTube only because we couldn't make it work to Facebook as well. So it will stay on YouTube and people can come back and watch and catch up
Okay.
later. So that's really great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Anne.
you.